we have a guy named Chris Sky that's joining us. I had Chris Sky come in. He basically, back when COVID was happening, he was getting just ridiculed in Canada. He's a Canadian. Don't hold that against him. Worked on the truck convoy. Had trouble getting in and out of the United States and went around the country, around the world. I've got some questions for him, but we'll start with just saying hi. He's not in Canada right now, so they might not let him back in and get his own country. But Chris, welcome to the show.
How are you, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Can't complain at all.
All right. You're down in Mexico? Is that where you're at?
I am indeed. That's where this tan's coming from.
So are you celebrating the Trump victory? Is that what you're doing?
Well, if I had to pick one of the two, he's the obvious selection, and he's done some pretty great and amazing things, but he also made a couple promises he couldn't keep, like saying he was going to end the Ukraine-Russia war the day he was inaugurated, which sounded ridiculous at the time, and obviously in reality is pretty much impossible to achieve. But he did get everybody out of WHO. I love the fact that he's getting males that want to be females, calling themselves trans, out of female prisons, males out of female sports, these kind of common sense things. They seem like little small victories, but in reality, they are huge victories. It's showing the pendulum swinging back from the left towards common sense once again. So I love that for him. I love what he's doing. And he came out strong for you guys with the tariff thing against Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. And to be honest, we don't have any leverage. And I'm talking about all three of those countries. They literally have to do whatever Trump says. Justin Trudeau, he literally tried to talk tough. He was stuttering through his scripted speech. He couldn't even speak straight. And it's because it's pretty easy to explain for people that don't understand the tariffs and don't understand why this would be so much worse for Canada than the US. I can break it down real easy.
No bourbon.
The US imports, pardon?
No bourbon. You don't get any bourbon, and your whiskey sucks.
Well, that's the side point. Now we're getting into the fine details that really make it tough. But we got our maple syrup, Joe. You can still get it in Vermont. But the real reason that the U.S. doesn't care if Canada imposes dollar for dollar tariffs, we export about $350 billion to you guys. Your economy is $30 trillion. That's 1% of your economy. That's completely inconsequential.
Hold my beer. Hold my beer.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the other side, we import about $500 billion from you guys, and our economy is only $2 trillion. So that's a quarter of our entire economy. It's not like we can just make that up overnight. That would send us into a depression. It would destroy multiple industries. It would collapse the housing market. It would cause turmoil for Canadians. So for Trudeau to even go on TV and claim he's going to go dollar for dollar retaliatory tariffs was absolutely ridiculous. He should have just talked to Trump, said, okay, what do you want us to do at the border? How can we start on a path towards a comprehensive solution? Because just like Colombia did, they buckled, Canada buckled, Mexico will have to buckle. But then Trump did what Trump does. He overstepped, and he said that he will do the same thing to the BRICS nation.
Come on. He didn't overstep. Man, look, he's walking around like a pimp. He's like, come on, man, I got you. Watch this. I'm going to walk in, Okay, hey, you over there. Sit down. Okay, sit down.
It's one thing to bully Canada, Mexico, Colombia, combined GDP of what, 5 trillion, if that? But when you're talking about Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Iran, those countries together have a huge chunk of the population, and they have a larger GDP than the United States combined. The real problem, what you're saying, no?
No, they don't. They actually have almost identical GDP of the United States.
Well, if you add all the BRICS nations together, they definitely have a much higher. Yes, they do. Add them. You can't just say Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. There's Saudi Arabia. There's Turkey.
Well, Saudi Arabia, UAE, no. Hold on a second. Hold on. Some of those nations you said have signed intent to become a part of BRICS, but did not want to disrupt the U.S. relationship, so they have not entered into BRICS yet. So
not yet.
Okay, so I was right then. U.S. is still bigger,
But
almost as I know.
if you add up the GDPs of even the ones that are already numbers, it's still higher
Yeah.
than the US. China's 17 trillion.
Yeah.
Russia's almost around 3 trillion. Brazil's over 2 trillion. India's 3.5 trillion.
You're not
Iran's
there.
700 billion.
Yeah, you
What?
can't get to 30 trillion, bro. It's 29.6 trillion is the size of our economy, right?
It's even if it was still a bit less. We're talking about
All
now
right.
you're fighting with somebody on equal grounds. And
I'm
not
just
only
giving you a
do they
hard
have
time,
the
bro.
tariff, but not only do they have the tariffs that they can combat, they can just de-dollarize more of their commodities. And if you look at oil, which is the most highly traded commodity in the world, which is why the US dollar is called the petrodollar, up until around 2015, 2016, almost 100% of the oil sold around the world was sold in US dollars. Since BRICS got created, if you look at the JP Morgan study done in 2023, 20% of all oil sales in 2023 were not in dollars. This shows that no matter what Trump tries to do, the United States is losing the status of world reserve currency. And if he tries to provoke the BRICS nations with tariffs, they'll come back with tariffs that actually will hurt the United States and the people living there. And they can come back with de-dollarizing more oil and more of their other commodities, which will definitely hurt the US dollar on the trading market. That's all I'm saying. He shouldn't be talking as tough against the BRICS nations like he was against Canada, Mexico, and Colombia, because they're not as fragile and weak and have absolutely no leverage like we do. They together can cause the US a lot of problems in a lot of ways. So he should be working against being a little less isolationist and more willing to work with everybody. I know he wants to come out with his dick swinging and show everybody he's the man, and I don't blame him for that. And he's done a lot of good things that appeal to that. But in this particular scenario, he can cause disaster for the United States.
Okay. So I think that they'll probably come to a conclusion because whatever it does in the United States, whatever it does in the United States, it will do to them as well. So there is something to say about stabilizing currencies. And what BRICS wanted to do obviously had more to do with the trade policies and what Biden was doing in order to disrupt what was happening globally, right? I mean, he was poking at China, he's poking at Russia. We were in a proxy war with Ukraine. Like we were literally fighting the war with Russia through Ukraine. That we were using them as a puppet, right?
You still are.
No. So I know a little bit more about this. There is going to be an end to what happens between Russia and Ukraine. There's actively people on the ground that are negotiating that conflict to an end. Zelensky is going to be voted out one way or another. They're revamping the election systems there. They're going to get rid of a lot of the people, same way they did in the United States. They're going to get rid of the CIA influences, which are literally living in and are directing operations inside of Ukraine. That is an actual fact, right?
100%. I agree. 1,000,000%.
So all of that is going to go away over the next 30 days. There are active people that are investigating people inside of positions of trust all over the world related to what's happening in Ukraine. So that's going to go away. That war is going to go away. It can't happen as fast as day one. It couldn't. There was no way for it to happen because there's too much going on. There's too many moving parts of who's involved in that war. You have France, UK, Germany. You have a lot of different countries that are basically in this proxy war against Russia. NATO nations.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about that. I want to see that Trump makes good on his word there. And if I really see that they stop the funding to Ukraine, and I really see that U.S. and U.K. weapons stop flooding into Ukraine, I do think we'll see an end to that war. And that just shows that the only reason there was war in the first place is because the United States wanted it. Because if the United States wasn't giving hundreds of billions of dollars in all the and most advanced weapons and sending units of CIA to run missions inside the country, like you said, then there would have been no war in the first place. So I do believe that if Trump really wants to stop the war, he can. So I think this will be a great litmus test for the Trump presidency. And if he pulls that off, and they actually stop the war and we see Ukraine open up, they have elections, airports open, industry starts, I will give Trump a lot of credit and I will say that he made good on probably the biggest promise that he made so far.
You're going to become a big fan. You're going to become the big fan. You're going to start wearing Trump shirts and hats.
I don't know about that, but I will definitely give him his credit where credit's due. He's still got to do some more things. He's still got to do some more work on Israel and policy with Israel before he can get my full support. Because you can't serve two interests at once, and when you're serving the interests of Israel, you're putting them first before the American people, and that's literally against his own slogan, "America First." If it's America first, it can't be Israel. You can't be sending them billions of dollars. You can't be sending them bombs. You can't be letting their leader come in when he has ICC arrest warrants, et cetera, et cetera. Even Trudeau, I will give Trudeau this. Even Trudeau, the baldest wonder, had the balls to tell Netanyahu, if you show up in Canada, we're going to arrest you and hand you over to the ICC. That's like the only thing he's ever done that I respected.
All right, look. So here's what it comes down to as we start looking at the what's happening globally and all over the way. And I hate to say this, but people are waking up every day to the influences that the CIA is having all over the world, and basically not respecting the sovereignty of other nations, including Canada. You had Dominion first, right? You had Dominion voting systems in Canada first. It came from Canada, or a guy named John Polis.
They tested it on us because we're small and weak. And once they perfected it, they used it on you guys where they really wanted to use it.
Yeah. I mean, people in Canada are just too nice. I'm just going to tell you right now. They're too nice. They're just way too nice.
No argument there. None.
So as we look at kind of what's happening in this global environment, and the media is starting to back off, and now you have these radical, they're losing their funding sources, right? And the next will be to take away NGOs' funding sources like NPR, make them stand on their own 2 feet. No one actually will watch them at that point, right? Because why would you? It's trash. What do you think that it says for the next 90 days? I mean, this Doge thing, I want to talk specifically about that. This Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency. I mean, people are losing their freaking minds over this, right? Imagine this, though. What if Doge hit all 50 states? You ran on the principle that you're going to eliminate tollways, you're going to eliminate 70% of the budgets for education, push it back into funding kids and not into the administration that sits in cushy offices doing absolutely nothing, right? What if it starts to leak? Because I'm telling you that this is the platform I would run on if I was going to run for governor, which I'm considering in Colorado. What do you think it does across the country if this hits every person in every state at every level?
It'll transform the entire country. It'll transform the entire country. Obviously, that you don't need to think about it or even discuss it too long. It's just that simple. And if it starts in a few key states, it'll just spread like wildfire because people, like I said, the pendulum swinging back from the crazy left to the common sense. And we don't want to. We don't. We should be doing everything we can to keep that going because it's all about momentum. We saw how the left works. You give them an inch, they'll take 10 miles and they'll call you crazy while they're giving 5-year-olds puberty blockers. So we got to take this baton. We got to run with it. We got to restore common sense. I like the idea of the government efficiency organization because if Trump really wants to make good on all his promises, he needs something like that where they can literally go and cut huge portions of the government. And that's another thing he can do that would make me a fan of him because that would go a long way to his other big promise of getting rid of the income tax, which on the surface is a very, very difficult thing to do when you understand that 48% of all government revenue comes from the income tax, and you have such a bloated military budget. You have a huge budget for SNAP, welfare, EBT programs, and then you have the government itself with over 3 million employees. It's like 2.5%, almost 3% of the workforce, and so there's a lot of fat that you can cut. And it would be great for the American people. It would be bad for the people working in government. But I think you can agree with me, and the vast majority of Americans will agree with me, that people working in the cushy government jobs with all the benefits have been riding the gravy train for quite some time at the expense of the rest of us. And it peaked in COVID when they had virtually executive privilege to do whatever they wanted, while the rest of us were supposed to be stuck at home, wearing masks, forced to take jabs, vaccine passports, all the rest of it. So the political class, I wouldn't feel too bad for them if Trump and the government efficiency office got rid of 30% of the government jobs. Because
30%. 30%. I'm looking at 70%, bro. I'm like, I want the tomahawk. Hey, where's my axe, Apollo? Where's Apollo? Apollo we can't have you on and Apollo not be on here at all. Man, we got a battle axe. I know we got one somewhere. I want to chop the living shit out of it. I want to chop that shit down like a tree. Call me George Washington.
You're not wrong, and I don't disagree with you at all. I just have to use a smaller number so we can get the moderates on board.
So it's like 1 in 10 people in the United States are employed by a government, right? So for every 10 people, you have one government employee that like lurches over them. Just imagine that. 1 in 10.
Scary.
It blows my mind. How is that possible?
And because we allow government to grow every year. It's pretty obvious. You know what every government department does? Every single year, they ask for their maximum budget increase. Every single year. Why wouldn't you? If you were the head of any department, whether it's a government or it was a private industry, and they asked you, how much money are you going to need this year? Are you going to, and the maximum is $100. Are you going to say $80? Or are you going to say $100? You're going to say the maximum, so you can't blame them. So then and nobody knows how to waste money better than the government. Nobody knows how to launder money better than the government. The Ukrainian war, they sent so much money to Ukraine that they literally could have paid off the entire Ukrainian national debt, put $100 billion into the Ukrainian economy, gave them the highest standard of living in all of Europe, and still had $100 billion left over to pay off Vladimir Putin to leave them alone. True or false?
It's true. Like everything's true. I feel like I'm sitting over here. You're reading my notes, and they shouldn't have sent you my notes before we had this conversation. I feel like they did. I have so many questions because you literally went on a tour. You went all over Europe. You went and talked to people about fighting against the mandates, the vaccine mandates, the shutdowns, all the things. You were persecuted. You were charged in Canada. People don't know this. You were charged in Canada. You were kind of they wanted you. You got back into Canada and they were like, click, click, arrested you, right?
All many times. I got arrested like 26 times.
So you decided, hell no, I'm going to go to Mexico where I can actually have some bourbon.
Yeah, I don't drink.
I don't drink. Oh, by the way, I gave up drinking 4 months ago. I gave up drinking.
Fantastic. Don't you feel better?
I feel way better. Sharper, actually.
I love it. That's why I like Mexico, because I can wake up at 6:30 to a nice sunrise, and I can walk outside in a tank top. You know, I love my tank tops. And I can walk and I can enjoy life over here. But I go back and forth to Canada. I go all over the place. But like you said, I traveled all over Canada. I traveled all over the States. I traveled all over the world. And the one thing people have in common, there's two things. Deep down, there's always a core of freedom fighters in every country who are willing to fight and even willing to die for what they believe in. And number two, we're waking up more and more people every day. Just like you said, people are seeing the massive CIA influence, especially now in the music industry, in the movie industry. You see literal satanic rituals on stage, like the Sam Smith concert. And people will bring little children, like 6, 8, 10-year-olds to this thinking, oh, it's just music. They're just singing and dancing. But it's a lot more than that. You might as well bring your kid to an 18-plus comedy event, and they're probably going to have less psychological damage than going to some of these so-called mainstream concerts. We are going so far towards Sodom and Gomorrah. Did you see Kanye West and his wife at the Grammys? She was literally naked, and I'm not just saying that as a euphemism. She was wearing a see-through, like it looked like a saran wrap dress. It looked like I put a Ziploc bag over each one of my nipples, and I walked outside completely naked. And so with that's becoming acceptable in American society today, you have to realize they are doing this to you on purpose. They want to demoralize you. They want to get rid of your values. They want to destroy the strength of the family, because the strength of the family is the core of the United States. And I think the Trump presidency is going to bring a lot of those values, especially family values, back to the US. And you're going to see a big turnaround in the next 4 years, not just of the character of the people, but the character of the country and how it's perceived around the world. People are going to have more respect for the United States. And not this time because it's just so strong and scary and imposes its will on people, but because they're actually going to see the stop of the decline of society, and hopefully we're going to turn it around and head back the other way. What do you think, Joe?
I think you're absolutely right, but I would be remiss if I did not bring my axe. I did not bring my axe to the fight. You can go to Honorbound USA, and I will send you one of these axes. These are battle axes, and they're actually signed by us. Signed. These are my battle axes.
Can you throw them, though?
What's that?
Can you throw them, though?
Oh, I could throw, bro. Why would I want to throw it? Why do I want to let it out of my hands? I want to be able to hold the axe. I want to be able to touch that axe blade. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I want to show you this really quick. Pam Bondi was just confirmed in as the U.S. Attorney General. And the first thing that she just said, let's go ahead and put this up, C1A, which I thought was fascinating, is Attorney General Pam Bondi orders the DOJ to stop all federal funding to sanctuary cities, vows prosecution of officials obstructing immigration enforcement. There are people that are doing it all over the country. Now, you obviously have an immigration issue in Canada as well. It's a pretty big problem.
The biggest
right?
one in the world, bro. We have a bigger immigration issue than you. We get over 1 million people a year, and they're not immigrants. I have no problem with immigrants. If you want to come to Canada and you're bringing skills and you're bringing the attitude that you want to make Canada a better place and you want to be part of Canada, you want to assimilate to our culture, by all means, come. But what are they bringing? They're bringing people from the third world who don't even fit in their own countries. And we have people that are from the same countries. Like we have Indian immigrants, for instance, that came to Canada 20 years ago. Very hardworking, very friendly, fit very well into the communities. And they can't stand the new immigrants coming in. And they are the ones screaming, deport them, send them back. And that's exactly what Canada needs to do, because I'd say within less than 10 years, I ran some calculations and I had to do it off certain estimates. But within less than 12 years, Canadians are going to be a minority in their own country. And that is ridiculous, because Canada was a country founded on European values, and that's how it was built. And now it's just a country with no culture. They want to destroy culture by replacing it with no culture. They want to destroy pride in the country and place it with pride, the LGBT movement. In Canada, pride is such a big deal. It's not just a day. It's not just a parade. It's not even just a month. Now pride runs from June all the way to the end of September. It's an entire season. And they allow gay and transgender men to walk around naked in public in front of your children with their penis and their testicles hanging out for all to see. And this is now considered legal and moral in Canada. So we are worse off than you. If even when Pierre Poilievre wins, he's not going to be much different than Justin Trudeau. He's going to be a moderate. He's going to be just like him, almost no difference. You guys got a real chance with Trump, but I believe that the American people have to stay vigilant, stay on him, and make sure that he keeps the promises that he's made to the people rather than carry out the favors that we know politicians are all beholden to. I hope he's more than that. I hope he's more than a businessman. I hope he's someone that truly does care about the country. And like I said, we're going to see it in the next little while. We're going to see how the war with Ukraine and Russia goes. We're going to see how his proposal for the income tax goes. Him pardoning the J6 protesters was absolutely epic. I think that was fantastic. And we need something similar to happen in Canada. There's a big trial coming up. Sentencing for something similar that has to do with the Canadian trucker convoy and political prisoners. I don't want to talk too much about it yet, but I'm gonna come back on the show another day.
Yeah, something's big is about to happen. So I want to get you back on for that. And people are just asking about that. And I will tell you that you've done a lot of work to make sure you protect and defend and raise money, support those truckers. One in particular that they're trying to throw in jail for 10 years for standing up for the rights of other Canadians.
10 years, not because he murdered someone, not because he attacked somebody, not because he robbed somebody, because he was sitting in a car and honking a horn. Welcome to Kenya, ladies and gentlemen.
So 10 years. So I got some good news for you related to what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. This might resonate with you. I want to play this. This is cut 2. This has a lot to do with the CIA. Let's go and play it.
Fox News alert, the Wall Street Journal is reporting the CIA has reportedly just offered a buyout to its entire workforce. Everyone in the agency is telling employees late today they can quit their jobs and receive about 8 months of pay and benefits. It's a part of Trump's push to downsize the federal government. More as we get it.
Okay, so just so you know, the reason why they're doing that is they know where the bodies are buried. They want everybody out.
They want to base. If he actually does that, that is literally the definition of draining the swamp. And I'll give him huge props because you're not only saving a lot of money, you're getting rid of a ton of corruption. But what is he going to replace it with? Is he going to create a new CIA? Is he going to put his own people in there so he has basically his own Trump Gestapo? So once again, all these things.
Come on, man.
Said,
why can't you just give him credit?
I'm not saying he's going to. I'm not saying he's going to. I'm playing devil's advocate because he says the right thing. He says what we want to hear. He says what puts a smile on our face. He says what makes us, what gives us hope. So I just want to see him follow through. That's all. Let's see how much of the workforce takes this buyout. If 90% of the CI quits tomorrow and he doesn't replace them with his own people, I'll come on the show and I will say, Mr. Trump, you did a good thing.
Okay, so I got more to go over with you because I think it's really important.
No problem.
So the USAID, you heard about this debacle down there in Canada. So the website just came back up. And when it came back up, it says on Friday, February 7th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m., all USAID direct hire personnel will be placed on administrative leave globally, with the exception of designated personnel responsible for mission critical functions, core leadership, and specially designated programs. Essential personnel expected to continue working will be informed by agency leadership by Thursday, February 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll know tomorrow. Dude, they just literally asked them, get out, get out.
Once again, if that follows through, that is huge because he needs to do this, though. People don't understand that even though you guys have a $30 trillion economy, you also have a massive $30 trillion debt. So you can't be spending the kind of money the federal government has been spending doing $1 trillion plus deficits every year. You're at the point already where 30+% of your tax revenue goes just to pay the interest on your debt.
Yes.
That's the equivalent of your wife spending so much on your credit card that your first 4 months of the money you make went just to pay the interest payments. That's a crazy position to be in. And if any one of your friends told you they were living in that position, you would tell them they're crazy. But that's how the entire federal government's been living for years, and nobody's saying anything to them. So finally, Trump, if he goes with all these cuts, I will say he's doing everything he can to help the American people, because nothing will help the American people like a smaller, less bloated, less powerful, more efficient government. And that's all that will happen. The more you cut, the more money you save, the less intrusive the government is, the more freedom you have, and you have opportunity now to create more GDP because you're not wasting the money on government employees that add nothing to the economy. Think about that. You got 3 million people that are getting paid every day with your money. So they're taking your tax dollars and they're adding zero to the GDP. That's a double drain on the economy. So every government job you cut not only saves your GDP, but now that person's going to go have to work in a private industry and actually produce something for the country.
And just so you know, we're going to do this across the entire country in every state. I did say that I would not run for governor if they got Tina out by Saturday. All bets are off if they don't. And so I will tell you that we're going to doge the entire country. We're going to get 50 people in every state. We're going to get rid of the voting machines and the mail-in ballots. And these radical leftists, man, they're going to be screaming all the way to their grave. Okay, so I got to tell you, this is one thing we'll agree on.
How can anybody make the argument that you don't need an ID to vote?
Because they're retarded. I mean, let's just say what it is. They're a bunch of freaking retards. I mean, these are some of the dumbest human beings known to man. They're government workers. They want to stay in their position. They've been selected, not elected. And look at them talking. And you can't help but be like, oh my gosh, is this real? Like, this can't be real. Here's Elon, though. Elon's like this. Man, I am so enjoying hearing the squeal too. Because they're just squealing. Ah, it's great. It's so great. These are dumb people. You asked that question. They're just dumb.
I think a lot of them are dumb, but a lot of them are just are sinister individuals.
Yeah.
They know better. Enough of them know better.
LARPers.
And they just know. And yes, exactly. So then you mix the sinister people that know better but have no morals and are willing to lie, cheat, and steal. And they're now joined by all the stupid people that literally don't know better, that are easily manipulated. And that's why the left is so dangerous. And that's why they call them useful idiots, because they can be used to the detriment of all of us. So now that people realize that, I don't think that left is ever going to get the same kind of handle on the United States or that it had. In Canada, we are in another position altogether. I don't think we've ever been further left. I don't think we've ever been further from common sense.
I don't think the people are really that way, though, in Canada.
They're not. They're not.
Yeah.
But the government pushes it so hard, and they don't get the pushback from the people that they should get, because, like you said, Canadian, the word isn't even really nice. The word that they like to use in Canada, that they pretend is the highest virtue a Canadian can have, is tolerant.
Yes.
Tolerant. And then when you look up the definition of tolerant, it literally means putting up with something that you know is wrong. So how is that a virtuous thing? That's the last thing you want to be. You want to be intolerant, because otherwise you're going to let evil people do evil things and you're not going to do anything about it. And that's how evil succeeds, when good men do nothing.
Yeah, good men do nothing, that evil does succeed. So this is something that I want to talk about, that I want your opinion on, because you've been in and around politics, and I just want to get your opinion on it. So we're going to play cut 4, which is President Trump talking to Bibi, and then we're going to cut 5 that I didn't get till this morning. So cut 4, and in between that, so I'm going to play those two, and then I'm going to read you what I wrote. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. I couldn't get to sleep, and I was thinking about it because I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. And, I have a great amount of love and respect for the people of the Middle East. I mean, people can say whatever they want. Some of the most amazing people I've ever met are there. So I want to play these back to back. Let's go ahead and play 4 and 5.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
I think the president's made it clear that he expects these nations in the region to step up and to accept Palestinian refugees who will be temporarily relocated for the rebuilding of Gaza.
Okay.
Now here's where I got.
Hold on a second.
Here I got huge critique. So go ahead first.
I want to read to you what I said at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because, look, everyone, humanity does not know a side, by the way. How you treat people does not know a side. It's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's not Palestinian, it's not Jewish. Sorry. Or Israeli, because there's Arabs that live in Israel. I said this, Mr. President, what happened to America first? Gaza is not New York City and is not our land. We should not take it. Now, this is before I actually heard the first part. Israel should not be able to take the land underneath the Palestinian people. And let's be honest, that's what this is. We're treating them like we treat the poor black communities in D.C. or any other inner city redevelopment zone. You think shipping them to PG County, Maryland, and putting a fence around it didn't lead to destabilization, crime, and misery where they placed them? You cannot treat people like animals and expect them not to revolt. And frankly, that is what has happened here in Gaza and the West Bank. Just take a moment and look at the reality of how this has worked out here. I realize there are no easy answers, but relocating the people and giving the land, in essence, to Israel is not the answer, in my humble opinion. People deserve dignity and respect, and two things can be true at the same time. Israel deserves peace, and the Palestinian people deserve resolution and peace as well. I believe this will lead to more conflict as we treat people of Gaza like own people, incapable of having a seat at the table in planning their own futures. Can't believe I'm having to say this, and it doesn't make me anti-Jewish or pro-Palestine. This makes me aware of the principle of humanity. Where you work the problem, you create bigger and more complex problems when you marginalize and dismiss not just the people, but arguably a nation state. We must never become the very people that we are fighting against, no matter how honest our intentions. This cannot work logically. And now we take an identity, history, and even future that was never ours to take. Like most things, the right decision, most often not the easiest. So that's what I wrote. And now I'll give you the floor to kind of talk about what your thoughts on that after you've heard mine.
Honestly, that was extremely well written and very expressive, and almost my sentiments exactly. Except I would even go a step further and say what they're planning and what they've already done is literally the definition of genocide, which is either the killing or the forced relocation of people based on their ethnicity. And that's exactly what's happening. Jordan already has 2.5 million Palestinian refugees, and they've been temporarily there now for like 2 decades. So the idea that they're going to move all these people out of Gaza after they just blew up all their homes and blew up all the infrastructure so they can rebuild it and then give it back to the same people that they just brutally killed and expelled is a pipe dream. And you have to be beyond naive to believe that. So they want to do, Trump even used the words, we're going to clean out Gaza. That's very, very intimidating. Imagine you're living in Palestine and you're watching the American news and you're praying for President Trump to finally save you, and you hear him tell you he's going to clean you out. And this is after your entire neighborhood has been carpet bombed. You have multiple family relatives that have been dead or had limbs blown off. You're starving. You have no food and water. And now you have Trump telling you that the United States is coming for you. That's got to be one of the most terrifying and disheartening things that these people can go through. And everybody deserves dignity. The Israeli people should not be dragged into a perpetual war against all their neighbors, against Iran. The political class don't care when Iran sends missiles and drones into Israel. They're in their bunkers. They're in their underground places, safe and sound.
No, they're not. They're in a different country. They're in a different country.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not even in the country. They're somewhere else.
They're on a green screen in a different
They're in Morocco.
country.
They're on the beach in Morocco. What are you talking about, right?
Exactly. So what has to happen there is exactly what you wrote. They have to be given their space, they have to be given their dignity, and they have to be given the resources to rebuild and have peace. And the borders have to be defined and respected, and they can live in conjunction side by side in peace, and they can actually start becoming trading partners, and they can start helping each other rather than hurting each other and holding the entire world hostage at the same time.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is important for everyone to understand. Where you can respect the sovereignty of Israel, you have to respect the sovereignty of something that's been going on for the last 80 years, right? And we
agree.
We have to get to a place where we actually can normalize relations, and you can't do that when you have people like Susan Rice and Samantha Powers and other people that, frankly, are just awful human beings that have not respected the sovereignty of nations. And look, chaos pays, war pays. The more chaos you have, the more money individuals tend to make, and that's happened across every state. That's why school shootings are profitable for different organizations. That's why they pass laws that create more stringent rules. That's why you have privatized prisons that charge 25 cents an hour or 25 cents a minute for you to talk to your loved ones. And a bag of ramen noodles costs $6 when you can go to the grocery store and pick it up for 22 cents. That's why they do the things that they do right now, is because they are making money off the back of the most disadvantaged or the most vulnerable people, no matter what state or property or opportunity or place you are. So, I do believe you have to get rid of these warmongers that maybe are holding hostage the people in Palestine or Palestinian people. I believe you have to get rid of the warmongers on the other side too, the World Economic Forum people, the people that are really doing a massive amount of harm to not just society there, but society everywhere, right? That's leading to these kind of justified wars or justified, things that President Trump specifically has done. So, it's disheartening for me because I look at this and I just get, I just get, I'm sad. I'm sad because I really want the people. I want us to get to a place where we honor people and we basically are for peace. We're for people not killing each other. We're for creating positive environments, because everyone across the entire world, if they didn't have to go to war, they wouldn't. Life, peace, the pursuit of happiness. Chris, wouldn't you rather be doing that?
100,000,000%. I'd rather be working with my neighbors or at least be left alone by my neighbors than be fighting with my neighbors every day. And it's like you said, the people are the target every time. They make money off your suffering. Whether you're fighting and dying in war, whether you're in jail working slave labor, they are the ones making money off the situation they put you in. And people need to understand that politicians, more often than not, do not have your best interests at heart. So you have to get through the media garbage. You have to listen to people like Joe that you can tell are speaking from the heart, and people like me, because we don't have to write down what we say. We don't have to read it from a teleprompter. We don't have to get advisors to tell us what to say. We say what we feel and what we believe and what we know is true. And the biggest thing that you wrote in that whole thing is that the United States, Israel, and everybody else involved has to do the right thing, even though it's not the easy thing. And that's what the whole world learned during COVID. So if you didn't learn that lesson after 4 years of having your freedoms literally stripped from you, if you didn't stand up for yourself, you're not going to learn it from the Israeli-Palestinian situation. You're just one of those people that's never going to get it. But for the people that do get it, freedom is the most important thing in life. And Palestinians and Israelis both deserve that freedom. Both deserve to be able to pursue a good life, live with their families without worrying about getting bombed or robbed or the rest of all this political turmoil that's been surrounding them for decades. We can end it. The world is finally aware of the situation enough that they understand what we have been telling you, that there needs to be a two-state solution. There needs to be borders. They need to be respected. Both people need to have their autonomy, and both people need to have their freedom and their peace. It's that simple. It's really not that complicated. They make it seem like it's complicated because they like when you die. They like when you're in jail because it's less people for them to deal with, and they don't have to pay you Social Security because you're not going to retire. So life is cheap to them. To me, life is precious. That's the difference.
And it should be precious to most people. People shouldn't have to live a life that is filled with turmoil. And there's a lot of people around the world that do live a life of turmoil. And there's sacrifices that we've been able to make. I mean, I've made, you've made, Mark's made. Tina Peters is sitting in jail right now. We just did the first hour and a half on Tina Peters and talking about, we just took a little bit of, somebody sent me 400 gigabytes of information related to Tina Peters that included recordings. I'm talking massive recordings of people that have done. I didn't even put that stuff out yet. And then we just traced through a federal confidential informant and someone that set Tina Peters up. And I'm not even done yet. Like I have so much information. I'm going to, it is like, man, I'm angry.
And imagine that's just one person, and they're doing that to thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the exact same moment. That's the level of corruption. And that's why I understand why you want that battle axe, because every time you take away a chunk of government, you're eliminating a chunk of expenses and, more importantly, a chunk of corruption. Because even if only 1 out of 5 of them are corrupt, and obviously we know it's a lot more than that, every time you cut 1,000 government employees, you're eliminating corruption, you're eliminating tyranny, you're eliminating waste. The government does not need to be the size it is. Then what's that old quote? The government's like fire, and you won't want it to get too big because it becomes a fearful master. Well, yes. I think we're at that point in Canada where a lot of people are afraid of their government. And what the U.S. knows is you want your government to be afraid of your people. That is the big difference. And that's the mindset and the attitude that we need to bring, not just back into the United States, but to the entire world. That's when you get freedom. That's when you have peace. That's when you have good times. Unfortunately, those good times create weak people like our leader, Justin Trudeau, and then it takes strong men like us to right the ship again. So I hope Donald Trump is really doing everything he's saying, and I can't wait to watch and see, because it's like the best show in the world one way or the other. But I hope he can get done what he's saying he can do, because if he can do that in the United States, other countries are going to take notice. When he pulled out of the WHO, I think it was Nigeria, they pulled out the very next day. So when they do something, they embolden other people to do it. So the U.S. can finally become the example that it always thought it was for the rest of the world, and it used to be at one point in the heyday. But in the last 10, 12 years, with the exception of a few years, I think we can both agree that the U.S. has lost its way, lost its values, lost its principles, and lost a lot of standing with other countries and people around the world. And finally, it's coming back.
Finally, we finally will get it back. We finally will get it back. I want to. I want to end with this, and then I'll let you tell people how they can follow you. But
you can't. I'm banned on every social media that exists. I'm not fake banned like Andrew Tate and all other influencers.
Are you on X? You're on X, right?
I am not. All the accounts on X of me are fake accounts. They allow the fake ones to proliferate to give the illusion that I'm still online. But even Mr. Elon Musk has banned me off of X. So if Elon's listening, give me my X back.
Are you banned on every platform? Seriously? Every one of them?
Every single platform. Wow. Everyone. The only way people can even see me is if they see me in the street of Mexico or if I'm on a show like this.
Okay, so here's a thing that you can do. Are you still doing a podcast or no?
No, but I'm going to be going live on February 19th from the location, the important location that we can't talk about.
Yeah, get with Mermaid so I can get you on. We'll make sure you go live on the network. We have a news network we're going to be launching. We're also going to open it up to other influencers so that they can actually launch as well. We're going to be sending out an email to about 2.4 million people to let them know kind of what we're doing at Untamed. And Untamed is, obviously it was Conservative Daily. I want to talk to more people. I want to have different conversations with people that are on the left, on the right. I want to bring truth. And frankly, it doesn't matter where it leads us. It doesn't matter. We're all men and women. And at some point, you have to let the radical retards be the radical retards. And you got to let the good people be the good people. And good people is not a D or an R. Although arguably you could say that we need a third party or another party because there's a lot of retarded people that call themselves D's and R's that cause a lot of damage. But so they can't follow you, but we'll find a way to follow you. What's that? Oh yeah.
There's radicals on both sides. If you swing too far to either side, you're in trouble.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Last thing to say that Al Green, that if you don't know who he is, a Democrat, that it just filed articles to impeach President Trump. And I think I have to play this.
I saw that.
I'm going to laugh. I couldn't stop laughing about this. But this guy, by the way, is one of the people.
Petition, right?
I think his credit score is like a 300. I mean, the guy's literally one of the worst human beings ever. Sorry.
That makes him a perfect politician.
So I'll just play this last cut of him where he thinks he's holding a battle axe like this, but he's not. He's actually not holding a battle axe. He's holding a cane. Yeah. So he's going to bring the articles of impeachment against President Trump for dastardly deeds. They don't really have a lot left in the tank. There's not a lot left. The squealing is going to stop here very shortly because if we do Doge at every state level, we're going to run these little freaks right out of our country, and we might even run them just into Canada because you're already bad anyway, so it can't really screw anything up there. Let's go ahead and play. What do you care? You're in Mexico. Go ahead and play it.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza is no joke, and the Prime Minister of Israel should be ashamed, knowing the history of his people, to stand there and allow such things to be said. Ethnic cleansing has been a crime against humanity. And I stand here today in the well to denounce what was said, to denounce what the president said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. I also rise to say that the impeachment movement is going to be a grass-up movement, not a top-down. The people have got to move forward. The people have to demand it. And when the people demand it, it will be done. I did it before. I laid the foundation for impeachment, and it was done. Nobody knows more about it than I. And I know that it's time for us to lay the foundation again. On some issues, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. On this issue, I stand alone, but I stand for justice. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities toward the president.
Wow. The guy looks and acts like a used car salesman. And he literally speaks in cliches.
He didn't say anything. It was like soup salad. Try to eat soup salad.
It was ridiculous. Although
Yeah.
I do agree that Trump shouldn't be ethnic cleansing Gaza, the idea that he's going to get impeachment over that is absolutely ludicrous.
Well, he's not ethnic cleansing. That's my problem. He's not. He's
If he tries to actually remove them from Gaza like he said he wanted to, then that would be the definition.
Yeah. All right.
Unfortunately.
So I get to pray over you because we end everything with a prayer. I want you guys all to know one thing. I'm reading the notes right now. Insanity cannot be cured. No, it cannot. Ali says they're scared. Too bad these a-holes don't care about the U.S. instead of every other country. Susan Rice. Oh, so good to see you, Susan Rice. I'm going to shout out to Kathy because I know she's actually listening to me right now. Jada's coming in. Is it Jada's in there? Okay. I want you guys to know that we are the ambassadors of truth. You have to be the ambassadors of truth. We are going to do some pretty incredible things this year. I don't know what sponsors you want me to have. I'll have sponsors. Somebody said that I don't listen to when the sponsors are on. How do you think I get to sit in this chair? So make sure you support the sponsors that we have if they work for you. One of the biggest ones, obviously, DCF Guns, Buy Guns and Ammo. I want to say this. We have to work the truth no matter where it takes us. We have to be committed to the truth. We have no permanent allies. We only have permanent ideals. Those are ones of character. They're ones that are rooted in absolute truth. And if that leads us to a place where, frankly, you get canceled, as Chris has been canceled, he's going to face those consequences. He's fine with it. We're going to have him back on February 19th. He's got a lot of announcements to make. Chris, thank you for joining us. Dude, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the work that you've put in, and I'm proud of the commitment that you made, regardless of the fact that you got canceled. So thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, I get to pray for you. I'll pray for everybody else as well. I'm going to make it. I did. Roxy says, when are you going to release the bomb reference? Tina Peters, go back and listen to the beginning of the part of the show. If you did not watch the beginning part of the show, I talked about how they committed crimes. They conspired together, RICO violations, whatever you want to call it. Lawyers are saying that based on the information, Joe, the small amount of information that you have, it's enough that they should be able to open up an investigation. I'm giving Jared Polis an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We're going to do the right thing. I'm going to commute her sentence until we can figure out what's going on. At least you wouldn't look like you're guilty as hell, Jared Polis. And I know you guys are listening, and then you need to start charging people. Start with Matt for lying, right? I think that's influencing a public official. I think that's what you could charge him with for what he did to the investigator. And the investigator could be charged as well. And then let's just dig deeper into this deal and make sure that we have people that are held accountable in the state of Colorado for what they did to a Gold Star mom. So I get to pray for you. Ready? Oh, and Jada, so nice to see you. I'm going to pray for you. You good? All right, Chris. Father God, thank you. Thank you for Apollo. Thank you for my team. Thank you for the people that have just been working nonstop, tirelessly for the last 4 years. I thank you in that group, Father, for Chris. I thank you for his commitment to his countrymen in Canada and for his care and compassion for other people in the United States, in Mexico, and around the world. I thank you, Father, for the sacrifices that he's made. I thank you, Father, for the courage that you've put on him. I thank you for the commitment and character that you've given him and the ability with wisdom to speak truth and to make sure he becomes a student of what is happening, not just in Canada and the U.S., but around the world. And Father, I thank you for his ability to stand up unselfishly for others. It is not a trait that many have, but for those that do have it, Father, I am thankful for the things that you've put on them and the courage and commitment and leadership that you've given them. Father, I thank you for the people listening. And I thank you for the ability for us to be in this position where we've been delivered, that President Trump was elected. And people would say, oh, we did it. But Father, I give it to you. I know that you did it. You caused all of this in this restoration to be possible. And for those that are just listening for the first time, we do pray at the end of everything to you, Father, and we give it all to you. And I just want to say, Father, if you could just give the leadership and the wisdom and the courage and the commitment and the protection to our leaders in this country that are doing things to turn over every rock, that is what we pray. It's a bold prayer. And protect Chris as it goes about. And if you could get on Elon's list and maybe just wake him up at 2:00 in the morning and say, let Chris Guy come back on X. That would be great. So Father, we bring it all to you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Absolutely, bro.
As well.
Keep doing what you're doing. I'll see you on February 19th. Till then, thanks for coming in.
Cheers, brothers.